Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you're well from wherever you're watching this channel. Now, after listening to this statement from Moses Kuria.
Now, John MBADI is going to be confronted by four major risks. The first risk, the most important one, is of course this expenditure. Now with all the two collapsed finance bills, it's a must. He must take the knife and cut government expenditure. He must do a microscopic review with some boldness, and he's very stubborn. Let me tell you something. John MBADI is a very stubborn man. He needs prayers, grace, and luck, all at the same time. But that's for that.
I don't know whether Moses Kuria was trying to scare John MBADI because the statement was a bit scary. If I was John MBADI and in that position that I am in at the moment, and I receive such a statement from someone like Moses Kuria, I'd be scared the most. So Moses Kuria told John MBADI something here that not even miracle can help you. That's a very strong statement to come from someone who is regarded as a former CS, having held two ministries, consecutively. So I want us to go explosively into this statement from Moses Kuria that he delivered to John MBADI, because he has made some recommendation on what John MBADI must do if at all he doesn't want to become a laughingstock, just like Moses Kuria is now a laughingstock. So before we get further on this analysis, please like this video. It's so important. If you like this video, I'm so grateful for everyone who has been liking our videos. I don't take that for granted. Subscribe to our channel if you've not subscribed before, and to existing subscribers, thank you so much for your support. I want to take you to some of the advices which Moses Kuria said, because Moses Kuria appears to be like yule mdudu anakuuma alafu at the same time anakufuliza ili usisikie uchungu. So Moses Kuria alikuwa anamuuma John MBADI alafu at the same time anamfuliza. I understand hiyo ni tabia ya panya. Panya anakuuma na anakufuliza. Umelala anakuuma na anakufuliza, usikii uchungu, but ukiamka asubuhi uliumwa. So that is what Moses Kuria was trying to do here, ladies and gentlemen, because he threatened John MBADI indirectly, scared him, then said that John MBADI can deliver. Let's listen to what Moses Kuria had to say.
Let me start with my good friend, my college mate in the University of Nairobi School of Business, John MBADI. John MBADI is going to be confronted by four major risks. The first risk, the most important one, is of course this expenditure. Now with all the two collapsed finance bills, it's a must. He must take the knife and cut government expenditure. He must do a microscopic review with some boldness, and he's very stubborn. Let me tell you something. He's a very stubborn man. I can tell you, from the university to parliament to budget committee. So if he decides to do the right thing, he'll do the right thing. And the right thing he must do. He must face all accounting officers, all ministries, departments, and agents on the eye and tell them you've got to cut all that, the extra fat. I think if he comes as a rank outsider, he can be able to navigate that one. But that's only part of the story. John MBADI has to camp at the KRA. He has to turn it upside down. Like Jesus went to the place of worship and turned tables upside down. That's what I expect John MBADI to do. To go to KRA, scream from that 10th floor, turn the whole place upside down, and tell them, I was just for the last 3-4 years, consistently KRA has missed the targets. Consistently. The last time, 2019, we got 107% performance. I've been tracking that, in terms of targets vis-a-vis actual performance. So if you don't raise revenue, and I'm not saying add taxes, because now we are in that situation whereby maybe he's going to be fortunate enough to add the taxes. But even within the current, tax framework, much more needs to be done to reform KRA. I expect John MBADI to place this right on top of his agenda, that KRA must be reformed. We must bring more people into the tax bracket, so that the few people who are paying taxes are able to observe some relief. I'm expecting him to praise the issue of automation, right in the front of KRA, so that now the issues of tax evasion, we can reduce them.
Yeah.
If he does that, not only I think, sitting from where I think, if John Badi does his work right, he can hit 5 trillion shillings in revenue without adding taxes. I'm sure he can, And if he does that, then we start to bend the curve in terms of all these other issues. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. He can hit 5 trillion, and I see that something like VAT, for example, if we hit 5 trillion with the same tax regime, we can reduce VAT from 18% to 16%, from 16% to 14%, for example. Why not? Yeah, if we get more people to pay taxes. But that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Finally, John Badi has to do much more in terms of relationship with our development partners, with the markets, not just partners, but also with the markets. He has to reform their debts. He has to mature debts which were, questionably taken by the previous regimes, which were short-term, high cost debts. Go for more concession. He has to do a lot of transformation, a lot of boldness required there, and he's doing that at a time when the market, the other day, I think Moody's downgraded us, Fitch downgraded us. If I know IMF has postponed the review, the review that was supposed to pass the Kenyan package end of July, they said end of August. If that gets postponed again, John Badi is going to lose some weight.
How much of what is expected to do depends on the goodwill from the head of state?
I think a lot. I mean, the head of state is a core CS for National Treasury, for all intents and purposes. He's a core CS. Some of the things that the president has to do are diplomatic. He has to pick the phone and talk to the chaps at World Bank and talk to the MD of IMF and all that. He has to invoke his political capital, especially on the global arena. Something I think he's been doing very well. So John Badi, he really needs the president and the goodwill of the president to be able to do that, because they are co-joining with him. There's some things that Badi can do, and he can do it very well. There are things which only the head of state can do, and I'm really praying for him that we really remain on the good books. For example, for World Bank and for IMF, that I'm also fearing, because if IMF doesn't come through end of this month, in another 19 days, this shilling might hit 170. The dollar might hit 170 to the shilling, So I am really hoping and praying for him, And on Sunday when I go to church, I will say a prayer for John Badi, to hope that IMF stay engaged on this. I'm just saying IMF specifically because that is the first real litmus test for John Badi. And the second litmus test will come a year down the line with the maturities that are coming in there. If I was to advise John Badi, I would tell him really, to use some of the education we were taught by Professor Nzoma in school together, me and him.
Very well, ladies and gentlemen, that is what Moses Kuria said in a live interview. Kuria believes that, first he believes that John Badi needs miracles to survive. That he will be confronted with the finance bill. Yes, but we also understand that John Badi talked about the finance bill, that it will be injustice to the people to bring it back after it was shot down and all Kenyans rejected it. He talks about John Badi, this is not an advice, that John Badi must face all the accounting officers. Of course, this is a very good advice, because John Badi must face all the accounting officers so that they can deal this issue over expenditure. This ministry, some of them have been blamed over, fictitious trips. Now, I understand that this time round, they have changed the name of expenses because they have been auditing, which have always been done about trips. So they changed them to some deliverables, like stationaries. So they call maybe a trip to India as maybe a supply of certain stationery. How do you take count of stationaries like photocopy papers? If you deliver a whole container, they were used, printed, photocopied, and dumped. How will you know how many were brought in? So the ministries have decided to use such kind of measures. Moses Kuria tells John Badi that for you to succeed, you must turn KRA upside down. Now that is where the problem is. There are cartels within these organizations that will always make sure that you will not succeed. Let's take, for example, the issue of tax expenditure. and tax refunds, the one that we talked about in the previous analysis, and it was a reaction from what John Mbadi said, because John Mbadi talked about fictitious tax expenditures, that are being created because of people who claim more tax refunds as a result of not giving correct information. It's one of the things that needs to be done. So for it to be done, John Mbadi must turn KRA upside down. That is now Kuria talking about that. Well, then there's the issue of there's the issue of IMF and the postponed loans. That is also something that Kuria talked about. Now, because Kuria talked about that issue of IMF, and Naisula Lesuda also talked about the issue of IMF when she was vetting John Mbadi. So it means IMF is another problem within the Treasury, because Moses Kuria, being, like I said, one of the insiders of Kenya Kwanza government, if he has said those words, if he has taken if he had the audacity to make such claims, it means that is a problem that is facing the Treasury. Maybe Professor Njuguna Ndung'u would have made it in that ministry if at all these cartels did not exist. So the issue here is to deal with corruption extensively. That is what Moses Kuria is trying to advise John Mbadi. But at the same time, he's telling John Mbadi that you will need miracles. So if you're telling John Mbadi to do all this, and then you're telling John Mbadi that you will need miracles, what does that mean? Is Kuria encouraging or discouraging? How do you start by discouraging and then encourage? That doesn't make sense. One would think that Moses Kuria is being jealous. I mean, of course, I would expect that to come from him, because John Mbadi is not one of those people from this government, the Kenya Kwanza government, but because they piled positive pressure on the government to expose the government to the people, the government ended up being seen as a government that is not delivering. And that's why you find that William Ruto had to take that privilege that he had to disband the whole cabinet. Now there's talks that even the permanent secretaries, the principal secretaries, are on the verge of leaving those offices to pave way for fresh ones. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to rest my case there. But what do you think about this advice from Moses Kuria and how he has delivered it? Because he has first discouraged John Mbadi, then encouraged John Mbadi. How do you understand by this statement from Kuria? Because I have used the Swahili language to refer to what I see from Moses Kuria's reaction. Kama ule panya anakuuma ukilala, alafu anakupuliza. Most of the time ukilala usiku, panya akikuuma, for example, at all, if that is the case, akikuuma hautasikia, lakini asubuhi utasikia kwamba uliumwa. You never always tell what time uliumwa saa ngapi, so anakuchuna, anakuuma, alafu anakuachia donda dogo, alafu asubuhi unakuta kwamba kumbe uliumwa. So you wonder how did it happen? So the same way with how Moses Kuria is reacting to this situation by John Mbadi. We all know that John Mbadi haitakuwa rahisi kwake, but despite the fact that haitakuwa rahisi kwake, most people who don't like the Kenya Kwanza government have said they are not giving John Mbadi at least an opportunity to deliver. Maybe he can turn things around. He can, maybe. So I would like to rest my case there. But what do you think about this statement from Kuria? Just go below in your comment section and react. Perhaps if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, take 1 second and subscribe, like this video. Until you catch up again, stay safe and stay blessed.